The Asia and Pacific Museum in Warsaw is one of the largest museums in Europe. Here, in the heart of Europe, a permanent exposition of Central Asia legacy is displayed. For more than half a century, art collections from Uzbekistan have been the heritage of the museum, whose history is impossible to overlook. Many art collections in Europe, such as those kept here at the Asia and Pacific Museum in Warsaw, were formed owing to diplomats and their work in the East. This collection originally belonged to a well-known Polish diplomat who served for decades in Laos and Vietnam, Indonesia and Afghanistan. His name is Andrzej Wawrzyniak. In addition to his diplomatic service, Wawrzyniak traveled throughout Asia, Australia and Greater Oceania, where he amassed his extensive collection. This private collection was of great interest to Europeans. However, the main source of inspiration for the diplomat and the collector was still the exoticism of Indonesia. Therefore, the museum was originally named Nusantara Archipelago Museum.
Andrzej
Wawrzyniak donated his private collection to the Polish state in 1973. He had about 3,000 exhibits, mostly from Indonesia. They included puppets, masks, textiles, cold weapons, and numerous works of art. After finishing his diplomatic career, Andrzej Wawrzyniak became the first director of our museum and served in this position for 40 years. The Asian Pacific Museum currently exhibits more than 23,000 objects that represent the culture of nearly all countries of the vast Asian continent. Obviously, a significant role here is played by the art of Central Asia, which is represented by literally all kinds of arts and crafts that have been cultivated in our region from ancient times to the present day. The researchers call this exposition Journey to the East, but I would call it simply Dialogue of Cultures. Of course, over the years the collection has been replenished by the other donors and through the museum's expedition to the East, and this collection is one of the most valuable in Europe. Despite the fact that the museum is relatively young, it has organized many exhibitions of decorative and applied arts, ethnography of the peoples of Central Asia and the Middle East. These were exhibitions with poetic titles: Silk, Felt and Carnelian Central Asian costumes from the collection of the Asia and Pacific Museum in Warsaw, blue and turquoise, traditional Uzbek and Tajik ceramics, colors of life, Suzani, embroidered textile from Central Asia, and the power of silver, traditional jewelry from Arab countries. From 2019, a separate gallery of the museum has been dedicated to the culture of Central Asia. The Central Asia ethnographic collection includes about 2,000 exhibits. Many of them were created in the glorious cities of Uzbekistan and in the adjacent territories along the Great Silk Road. The works on display at the museum are a testament to the rich culture of the region, represented by textiles, luxurious fabrics and carpets, as well as ceramics, copperware and jewelry. These collections illustrate the diversity of artistic heritage of the various ethnic groups living in the region. In this section of the exhibition, we try to reflect the atmosphere of Eastern architecture, similar to the ambience of Eastern bazaars along the Great Silk Road in cities like Samarkand and Bukhara.
Samarkand
and Bukhara were sacred places where cultures converged. Merchants with caravans came here from different parts of Asia, China, and India. And it was here that exceptional works of art were created.
I tutaj możemy usłyszeć dźwięk.
This exposition evokes the sound of music, taking us to the space of a bustling, noisy bazaar, the place of meeting people speaking different languages such as Persian, Uzbek, Arabic.
Po uzbecku, po arabsku, więc te głosy rzemieślników możemy tutaj usłyszeć.
The museum's collection of Uzbekistan's legacy mainly consists of textiles. The collection of Uzbek clothing has about 60 items dating back to the late 19th and early 20th century. This is an extremely valuable collection. These robes are perfectly preserved despite being worn about a century and a half ago. These are clothes belonging to a conglomerate of nationalities living in Central Asia. Asian traditional costume includes silk and semi-silk robes made from various fabrics. In the West, these fabrics are known as ikat.
W tym miejscu prezentujemy.
These are just a few of the costumes from our collection, but they are remarkably rich. The first one is specific for Bukhara women's brocade robe called munisak. This type of fabric was woven in Bukhara, known for its rich textiles, featuring a golden pattern on a purple background.
W Bukharze.
For women, the traditional clothing was paranji, which was hiding the figure. The paranji displayed in the exposition is likely belonged to a wealthy woman. It's made of expensive pakhmal, and on the inner side is lined with traditional cotton fabric. The characteristic cut that concealed the woman's figure had decorative detail, in particular the so-called long sleeves attached to the back of the attire. An essential attribute of paranji was a chachwan, a rectangular shaped piece made from horsehair. It typically covered the woman's face. The clothing style of the peoples of Central Asia was similar, though it could vary depending on the way of life and environment. Over centuries, each ethnic group has developed its own elements of clothing. The more refined and wealthy ones were made of silk and semi-silk abra fabrics. Nomadic tribes, on the other hand, wore clothes made of warmer and bulkier materials. However, an integral part of any costume were various headdresses. The most popular of them were duppe, usually decorated with diverse embroidery patterns. The Asia and Pacific Museum's textile collection features embroidered suzani. There are about 30 of them. This collection was mostly acquired through auctions. However, some of the most valuable exhibits were donated to the museum by collectors. The embroideries dating back to the 19th century were donated by the writer Marta Cherminska and Central Asia expert Tadeusz Martynowicz. Traditional suzani were made of several narrow strips of cotton fabric. In the East, this fabric was known as karbos. The strips were sewn together, and only then chizmakesh sketched a pattern on the fabrics. This craft of women artists called chizmakesh was passed down from generation to generation and held in great reverence. Suzani were also embroidered on silk. They were necessary for everyday items such as sheets, bed sheets, capes, ruijo and bolinpush, and prayer mats, joinamos. Suzani presented in the halls of the museum are embroidered using popular stitches such as basma and yurma. Ornaments and colors of embroideries are peculiar in each region. They have distinctive patterns and color combinations. In the funds of the Asia and Pacific Museum, we were shown a collection of Abra fabrics. Since ancient times, dating back to the 6th century, the region has followed the traditions of weaving and silk growing, owing to which exquisite silk and cotton fabrics were produced. It's well known that weaving was at its peak during the Timurids period. Valuable silk fabrics were produced in Samarkand, Khiva, Fergana Valley. Expensive and luxurious fabrics were in high demand along the Silk Road from the early Middle Ages until the end of the 19th century. Bukhara craftsmen achieved an outstanding feat by creating a unique silk velvet with Abra pattern, called Bakhmal. The famous and highly valued Khanatla silk was produced in the Fergana Valley. The most popular fabrics were made of silk mixed with cotton. These are Adras, Banaras, striped Bekasam. The blurred contours of the patterns were obtained as a result of complex technology. In translation from Persian, Abr means cloud. In addition to their decorative function, many patterns had symbolic and magical significance. Travelers who visited Central Asia and the Bukhara Emirate in the 19th century often called the people of Bukhara the Parisians of the East, due to their unusually refined and elegant attire. Exquisite Uzbek outfits were complemented by a variety of jewelry. The most luxurious jewelry was made by the craftsmen from Bukhara. Examples include the elegant silver and gilded earrings panchpoya decorated with tourmaline and river pearls. Jewelry from Khwarezm was also known for its great originality.
Akurat najważniejszą ozdobą I bardzo cenną
The most important and valuable piece of jewelry in our collection is the head ornament bodomoy. This unique Khwarezm jewelry piece is so far the only one in Poland. The jewelry was created in Khiva. The bodomoy is inlaid with turquoise and coral. Its shape, consisting of 3 almonds and 1 crescent, is of pre-Islamic origin.
Czyli składający się z 3 migdałów I 1 księżyca.
Jewelry art had a deep symbolic meaning of amulets. Very popular were amulet pendants called tumars. Tumars were used to hold paper scrolls with ayats from the Quran. One of the outstanding collections of Uzbek art in Asia and Pacific Museum is the collection of art metalworks. The collection contains about 60 works from the second half of the 19th and early 20th century. Mostly, these pieces were brought from Uzbekistan and Afghanistan.
Są to oczywiście dzbany oftoba z bardzo charakterystycznym grawerunkiem, charakterystycznym właśnie dla
Oftoba jugs with unique engraving were created in Uzbek workshops. They were the vessels for washing, and for hot water and tea, kumgans were used. One of the oldest objects in our collection is beautifully decorated open-work and gilded kumgan. It dates to the late 19th century. Interesting are the teapots, as they resemble the porcelain teapots, which were adapted from forms of Russian porcelain.
XIX wieku, natomiast pozostałe zostały zaadaptowane właśnie z formy rosyjskiej porcelany.
According to historical chronicles, this kind of craft reached its highest flowering during the Timurids era. The secrets of this art were passed down through generation and required knowledge of such techniques as forging, chasing, stamping, and engraving. In age-old tradition, items made of copper and its alloys such as bronze and brass were artistically worked. However, the kumgans and oftoba made in different craft centers differed both in shape and in their ornamentation. Artistic metalware has always been considered a luxury item for the wealthy. Therefore, they were not available to the general public. Luxurious vessels decorated the interior of rich houses, serving as evidence of a family's wealth and status. The funds of Asia and Pacific Museum in Warsaw also include traditional ceramics from Central Asia. This collection was formed between 1985 and 1990 through the efforts and research of Grigory Dervis, renowned Russian artist and collector, passionate about the study of Central Asia art, and Professor Andrzej Strumila, an artist, graphic designer, collector of Asian art, and friend of the museum. The collection currently consists of 250 items and includes the works by leading craftsmen of the largest regions and centers of ceramics in Uzbekistan. The most fully represented artifacts are those created in ceramics workshops famous for their centuries-old traditions such as Khorezm, Samarkand, Bukhara, and Gurumsaray in Rishtan in the Fergana Valley. For many centuries, the Fergana Valley has been the cradle of many crafts, particularly silk weaving and pottery. Rishtan, located in the valley, is the most significant center of ceramic art and is widely recognized outside Uzbekistan. The items created by ceramists of Rishtan are renowned for their shining transparency, shades of turquoise, dark blue, and blue colors on a milky white background. They are covered with a glaze called ishkor, made from plant ash. It's curious that from the end of the 19th century to the end of the 20th century, almost the entire population of Rishtan was involved in the production of ceramics. The collection of the Warsaw Museum contains works by Ibrahim Kamilov, one of the hereditary Rishtan craftsmen. He founded his own school and his family's traditions continue to this day.
Choć ceramika uzbecka kojarzy się przede wszystkim z błękitem.
Ceramics from Uzbekistan are primarily associated with blue, light blue, and turquoise colors, but our collection also includes pieces from other significant ceramic centers in Samarkand and Shahrisabz. The exhibition showcases the works of famous Samarkand master Nugman Ablakulov. Massive plates and lagans are always adorned with shades of green and brown colors, and their decoration compositions are engraved. The exposition also includes a small representative collection of hereditary masters from the Muzaffar family from Shahrisabz.
To są ulubione obiekty naszych zwiedzających, czyli okaryny husztak.
However, our visitors particularly enjoy the traditional hushtak whistles made by folk artist Hamro Rahimova and her student Kubaro from the village of Uba near Bukhara. The whistles are shaped like fantastic animals and are unique objects. In our collection, they are the only examples of ceramics made by women. Since its foundation, the museum, along with works of applied art, has collected and exhibited works by Polish artists inspired by Asian cultures. In the 19th century, Polish photographer Leon Bashevsky took hundreds of pictures while in Turkestan. For more than 20 years, he lived in the Bukhara Emirate, serving as an officer in the Tsarist army. Although his primary duty was cartography of the region, he also took pictures, which are invaluable historical documents. The museum owns collections of Polish artists who were inspired by Asian art. Andrzej Strumila's drawings are particularly significant due to the author's extensive travels to many countries on the Asian continent. In this context, we also should mention works by Alexander Kobzdey, Tadeusz Kulisevich, Roman Opalka, and Stanislav Poznansky. The latter artist's drawings and watercolors created during a trip to Uzbekistan in 1963 are of particular importance. He created works that he called notes from the trip, These works consist mostly of sketches and watercolors. The exposition of Uzbekistan's legacy at the Asia and Pacific Museum in Warsaw demonstrates the close involvement of Polish specialists in study of history and culture of Uzbekistan. The range of their professional interests is very wide. Everything that we have told and shown you today demonstrates that the culture of the East has always been in sight of European collectors, researchers, travelers. And this proves that the true masterpieces are not limited by nationality. They are appreciated universally.